So, welcome to 2023. I'm not generally the type that makes plans of any kind in life. I think maybe if you live with a chronic illness, you'll understand why, because as much as I may have the best of intentions for something, the reality is I have to go at the pace that my body demands. And so setting goals is kind of pointless, and it just creates this false sense of expectation and then inevitable failure. But we're going to do it anyway. So first of all, I want to complete my 1940s suit project. I really enjoyed working on it during Vlogmas. I'm really excited to make it still and have that as a finished garment I can wear. I just need a little break from it, and I took 2 weeks off at the beginning of January, and I sort of came back to it again and worked on it for a week, and I was like, it wasn't long enough of a break. And that leaves me with a bit of a dilemma, because one of my other goals for this year, well, I suppose it's not really even a goal, it's something that has to happen. At the end of April, I'm going to the Prior Retire ball in Bath, which are difficult words for me to say. And the theme for the Prior Retire ball this year is early Victorian, late 1830s to 1840s. So when I went to the romantic weekend in October 2021, I could wear my little Doric costume because that was late 1820s and that sort of fit the theme. But it's a bit of a stretch to wear that one to an 1840s themed event. So I need a whole new set of kit, including a corset, by April. And so I really need to start on that now if I'm going to have any chance of finishing it in time, which means that probably the 40s suit project I won't be able to come back to until the summer, which is a really not ideal time to be making a wool suit. But anyway, that's just the way it's going to have to be. So I know the 1940 suit project has been something that a lot of people have been enjoying and have been really interested in, and it's not dead. I will be coming back to it as soon as I can. But the reality is I have to work very slowly and I need as much time as possible to get ready for the ball. So I'm putting that one on hold for now. So in terms of the 1840s project, there'll be videos for all of that. So all the undergarments, the dresses, I'm hopefully going to make 2 dresses. I have silk for a ball gown, and then I have this pink printed poplin, which I'm hoping to make a day dress out of as well. And this was a really off-brand, I suppose, choice for me to go for like this baby pink, but I'd seen quite a few of them for this period, this sort of 1830s period, in this pink colour. And I don't know, I don't really consider myself a costumer. Dressing up is not my favourite part of the process. I like making, I like doing the research, and then I sort of wear the clothes just because I made them and it seems a shame to let them go to waste. And so I like the opportunity to wear things I would never normally wear and experiment with colours and prints and things that I would never normally wear, because I'm really not that bothered about how the final photographs for Instagram turn out or whatever, you know. So when I saw this pink fabric, it just kind of spoke to me and I was like, that seems really silly. And you know I love a silly project. The 1830s, I'm going late 1830s, but still it's quite a silly era and silhouette, so I couldn't really pass up the chance on that one. But my 1840s ball gown is in like a rust brown silk, real silk I was able to buy thanks to my coffee supporters, so thank you very much. And that will be a bit more sophisticated, shall we say. And the other thing about that is I'll be drafting my own patterns, so there'll be a little bit of pattern drafting, historical pattern drafting as well, for you to enjoy this year on the channel. Or at least that's the goal anyway. Let's see how we do. I've sort of framed it in my mind just this year that I have 3 sewing goals. The first being the 40s suit, the second being the early Victorian stuff for the ball, and the third being finally making my 1605 witch design. And I've had this design and all the materials to make this costume this is the 2nd year now, and I still haven't gotten around to it, and it's been one of those things, the timing's never been quite right. It was supposed to be a Halloween costume. October's never really a good month for me work-wise, and so I never had the time to focus on it, and it's never happened. This year is the year it's going to happen. I am determined. Even if I have to sew it in June, I will make this costume this year. It's loosely based on early 17th century ladies' wear, and it's just, this comes back to the fact that I don't really do the reenacting or the dressing up side of costuming much. I just like the sewing aspect of it. So I really wanted to do some sort of, to try a different period basically that I'd never done before, that I'd never researched before. And so I wanted to do something 17th century just for a massive change. I'm really excited about it. I have been excited about it for this is the 2nd year now, so I'm really determined to make it happen. Part of the design was some knitwear, which I've made. It's just the sewing that needs to be done. So I need for that, again, all the together all the correct layers, the shift, the petticoats, the jacket. I don't think I'll bother with a ruff. Maybe I'll make a ruff. That would be quite interesting to figure out how to do. But anyway, those are my 3 main sewing goals for the year. Hopefully I'll squeeze some other things in as well, but I'm deliberately setting my expectations low because I know that actually 2 of those, well, all 3 of those are actually quite a lot of work. So if that's all I get done this year, that's a win from me. So that's the sewing side of things. On to the knitting side of things. As for knitting, one of the aspects of doing this long stash busting project is that I have loads of works in progress, and I'm never normally like that. I'm normally a monogamous knitter, one at a time, and I slog it out until it's done. But because of sort of the nature of stash busting, I've really missed the novelty of new things in my knitting, and so I'm just constantly casting on new things. And it's become too much for me now. I have several things from last year that were works in progress anyway that have been completely neglected. I think I've got 7 or 8, which is not a lot by some people's standards, but for me that's too many. So one of the things I want to do is, you might have heard of or followed Roxanne Richardson on YouTube if you're into historical knitting and vintage knitting and things like that. She also has brilliant knitting tutorials. So if ever you're in need of a technique video, I highly recommend Roxanne's channel. And once a year she hosts, I suppose it's sort of a knit along, but it's an event that she calls Finish It February, whereby in the month of February you just tackle works in progress and we sort of all tackle them together, and the camaraderie spirit helps us through. It's convenient that February is also the shortest month. You know, it just helps us to keep on top, to stop things spiraling out of control. And I need it this year. Normally I don't have enough works in progress that I can participate, but this year I do. So that's what I want to do in February. I am working on a January stash busting video, and they're always a month behind to give me time to edit them, because I sort of end up with tons of footage of me knitting and then I have to edit them into about half an hour that's watchable. So the stash busting in January video will be coming out at the end of February, and then I'm going to do a Finish It February video that will come out at the end of March, and that will sort of be my stash busting. I'm going to combine the 2. It will be stash busting and Finish It February in one, and my goal is to not cast on anything new before then, before the end of February. However, there are some things that I would like to knit for the ball in April. Obviously I'm working on the 1840s shawl, and that's one of the big things, but I would also like to work on hopefully some other projects. I'm hoping I might be able to make a reticule. I've found some knit and crochet patterns for them, but they're all in silk twist basically. So I don't know whether I've got the time or the patience to tackle that before April. We shall see. Maybe crochet. I reckon I could stand to crochet thread, because I've done some thread crochet before and I don't mind it so much. If anything, I find it less cumbersome than normal crochet, which is weird. That's something I'd like to try, which will require the purchase of more supplies because I don't have anything suitable. It's kind of a pipe dream. Maybe I won't even have time to do that with all the sewing I've got to do before April. Let's call it a stretch goal, you know? In my good, better and best system, that's the best option. I'd like to try it regardless. If it doesn't happen before the ball, it's still a project I'd like to tackle at some point, just because I'm really curious. Having gotten into vintage knitting, it's like, I suppose I kind of did study to become a dress historian, and I sort of forget that sometimes is part of my interest and specialism, if you like. And one of the things that I didn't know a lot about, despite being a passionate knitter for a very long time, was the history of knitting. And now I'm sort of getting more into it through vintage and historical projects I've done for costume projects. It's like, it's speaking to a part of me, and suddenly I want to read all the books and do all the research and visit collections and all this sort of stuff. But again, all this depends on time and crucially energy. So I don't know if I'll get to that. I don't know if people will want to watch that. Maybe it's something I experiment with. We'll see. And that's about it for my knitting goals. I don't have any particular patterns or projects I want to tackle, mostly because of the stash busting. I just want to get on top of that, and then I'll think about things I really want to make. So that's quite liberating, actually. We'll just see where the stash takes us. One of the other things that we discussed in the New Year's live stream was the possibility of a retroclawed Patreon. And it's still an idea I'm toying with, because I'm concerned about how much value I can give you for your money, basically, because of the unreliable nature of my health. And I know some other creators offer social media benefits, but my social media use has all but vanished, basically, in the past couple of years. And that's not really something, you know, I've been able to wean myself off social media. I don't want to go back to it. There is always the option of Patreon exclusive videos, which I might look into, but basically I still haven't decided. So what I wanted to ask was what you would like to see. If there were a hypothetical RetroClawed Patreon, what would you like to see over there that would make you feel glad to be a part of this community, you know, that would make you feel like you're getting something, that you're getting value out of your subscription? Let me know. I'd love some suggestions. So that's about it, really. Those are my goals for the year. I think they're quite modest goals, frankly, which hopefully means they should be quite achievable. But, universe is chaotic. Who knows? Anyway, I'd just like to take this opportunity once again to thank you for your support over the next 3 years, and I'm really excited to keep doing this as long as I can in 2023. So thanks very much for watching. See you next time.